So go ahead and give us your thoughts.
Moon Knight show end up being a really good show to me. And mind you, a lot of this stuff is just my opinion. It's not I heard somebody else say the shit and I repeated it. It's my opinion. I'm watching it. I'm looking at it for me. I'm not looking at it for anybody else. And my opinion is my own. I really liked the show. I really liked Oscar Isaac coming back to a geek franchise and having a good experience on a geek franchise. From everything that I've seen in around the space, everybody really liked Moon Knight. There were some cringe moments in Moon Knight, but it happens nowadays. But predominantly, people really enjoyed it. So for me, that's good because Oscar Isaac had a rough ride with geekdom. I'm just Star Wars. He ain't coming back. He's not coming back. X-Men franchise, Age of Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, he hasn't had a good time with geekdom. So it was good to me that he got on this show because he did a phenomenal job acting on the show. He even executive produced it. He did an awesome job playing that character.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to go deeper into seeing how good of a job he did on the show, watch that episode 7, and then go on Disney Plus and watch the assembled Moon Knight behind the scenes thing. That dude did a phenomenal job acting. Go ahead.
No, I'll put it to you this way: the split personality thing he did a phenomenal job. The only person I've seen probably do better is probably James McAvoy in Glass.
Yes.
When he would switch personalities mid-scene, I had to give it to James. But short of that, Oscar did a good job as far as that's concerned.
Oscar actually killed it in episode 7, where you actually see there's no camera cut or anything like that. You see him go in between those two characters in one moment. One character is breaking down, crying, and the next one comes up, and you see it on his face. His whole demeanor changed. It's not just that he stopped crying, mannerisms, little idiosyncrasies that he does. All of that changed in that moment. I'm like, wow, this is amazing that he could actually pull that off.
Yeah.
In that scene, right in camera. I'm like, holy shit, this dude is awesome. But I thought he would do a good job in the show anyway. I didn't think it would be that damn good. I didn't.
No,
that actually pulled the show along outside of the stuff that the issue I was having with the character of Layla in that. Too much crush.
Let's do it.
Too much crushing and propping her up. And this is why me and Dr. T needed to talk about this because
let's do it. I have a tendency. I'll be watching something. It could be 2 a.m. and I'll shoot him a text and be like, "God damn it, Artisan, they went there." And he'll just laugh. I don't even have to tell him what I'm talking about. He knows what I'm talking about.
I know.
We watching it, and so first and foremost, I was never a regular Moon Knight reader. I would read him occasionally. I liked the character. I didn't mind that they switched him from white to. It's a little unclear what he's supposed to be, but he ain't white, so I didn't mind that. Whatever. But the character, what's her name?
Layla.
Layla. That was getting on my nerves. And I'll tell you the reason it was getting on my nerves is they started her out. She was like this kind of Indiana Jones like, archaeologist / swashbuckler kind of thing. She was stealing, artifacts back and whatnot. And that was all well and good.
Yeah, okay.
That was fine, But the first time, I think I'm getting an echo. I don't know where it's coming from.
Might be me.
Okay. So the first time I saw her beat up a brother who was security, tall, fit, strong security, and she comes through as an archaeologist, and she is whooping his ass, and I'm just like, oh, God, here we go again. It took me back to what is it? Iron Fist. What's homegirl's name? She's a nurse.
You know who you're talking about. Rosario Dawson's character.
Now I dig Rosario. I dig Rosario, but that role pissed me off because she was a nurse and she was beating up SWAT agents as a nurse. And I'm like,
She
stop it.
had some training.
Come on.
Colleen Wing got with her.
Yeah. She had a week's worth of karate training, kung fu training, and she was taking down SWAT, SWAT coming in through. I was just like, all right. That scene with Layla beating people up took me right back to that. And I was just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, thank you. He said it in the chat. Claire, thank you. I always forget her name for some reason. I don't see her as a Claire. Claire Temple, the night nurse.
The night nurse, right.
Yeah,
That's
thank you.
what it took me back to. So, so this archaeologist is just beating up security guards and killing brothers. And it was just like, come on, man, really?
Nah, but I told when I saw that episode, because I watched the episodes early, right? I stay up late and I watch the episodes. And so I saw the episode and I'm sitting here making my mental notes on the episode and I'm noticing, oh, Dr. T, I have a problem with this. I just know, oh, you're not going to like this. I got to wait to hear what he say about this shit.
Oh, yeah.
Because at one point she's fighting this tall brother that she knew. The dude is like 6 feet tall, right? Her little 100-pound ass. And she takes him down by jumping and throwing 2 knees into his chest. I'm like, she should have bounced off of him like a little kid. Like, what are you doing? And killed him. I'm like,
right.
What?
Right. But then it got worse, though. It got worse because then Khonshu drops this little statement about how she should have been, the fist of Khonshu. And I was just like, look, it's one thing if she has her own book, there's a legacy of the character, maybe I could buy it, but I'm hard on that anyway. Even the current Daredevil line where they have what's her name? She took over as Daredevil for a while. Elektra, and Elektra's a bad character. She's got her own history and all of that. I still wasn't a fan of her taking over for Daredevil. Keep her ass as Elektra. I don't have, give her a Elektra book, but
most people weren't for it because she took over for Daredevil, but then she started wearing a Daredevil costume, and it's kind of a downgrade for Elektra because Elektra is known. She is a known character. She wasn't like she was some new character jumping in, hiding her identity, playing Daredevil. We know who she is.
I will say the design of her suit was dope. But she didn't have to be Daredevil. Just give her a new suit and let her be Elektra, Right. But I had the same kind of feeling here because Khonshu was talking about Layla being his fist, and I'm just like, again, taking it back to that Daredevil movie, live action movie we got back in the day. There was a point where, with Ben Affleck, Elektra beats him up. She beats him in their little contest, and this used to happen a lot in movies at that time. And it was almost kind of like, well, why are we watching a Daredevil movie? If she's whooping his ass, just make an Elektra movie, which they eventually did, and it was fairly whack. But but they always had to beat up men, and that's something we still see. Hell, even in the Wonder Woman movie, which I thought was done well, they added to it. Of course, Wonder Woman has to beat up all the dudes, but then at the end, the female villain just gets to walk away, and that happened in both Wonder Womans, as a matter of fact. The female villains they don't have to pay for any consequences. There's no accountability. They just get to go home, But that said, as far as Layla, having her kill a brother and then escalate that with her maybe being the fist of Khonshu, that shit just gets exhausting. Okay, so let me see. So he's selling. So that's one of the things that bothered me about Moon Knight. The other thing that bothered me was looking at the various, Egyptian gods, and you see them show up with their avatars. And one of the things that bothered me as far as that is, I think one of the characters was black, but there's a those of you who've studied this stuff for years, I don't got to tell you about Egypt and its place in African history. And for these kind of television shows, that stuff just gets washed under the table. So there's almost this kind of portrayal like black folk don't have nothing to do with Egypt, with North Africa.
Never did. Yeah, we never had anything to do with Egypt, right? It's not a part of Africa. It's just its own island somewhere.
Now, as a sci-fi head, I wanted to see the other Egyptian gods in their full forms. I wanted to hear about why some of the Egyptian gods were locked into those little statues. I wanted to hear that history. I wanted to find out what happened. But then even the avatars, I was like, we can't get no black avatars for any of these
No,
guys.
I went off with that because when they got to that point in Moon Knight, if you guys didn't see the show, spoiler, you should saw it. Go back and watch it. But it comes to a scene where they're inside the Great Pyramid and all the avatars of the Egyptian gods are showing up.
Right.
And I'm watching them show up, and it's a lot of women, one black woman, and then once Osiris shows up, it's some balding European dude. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. We can't get one black man? Like, not a one? Even Osiris got to be a white dude? I was really upset because I was like, dude, this is like gods of Egypt all over again. I'm like, no black male representation anywhere in here, right?
Right.
And then even the one black woman, she wasn't bossed. They didn't put bossed in there. I was like, so what are we getting again? Like, why does this matter?
But it's a two-part problem because when you lock in the Black Panther and you connect it with this, you see this kind of devaluing and diminishing of the black male image, whether it has to do with humans or gods, right? You don't see any black male gods, for one.
No.
And the closest thing you get to that is the Panther, who is the avatar of Bast. And most of the movie, they really were, kind of starting to replace him with his sister. I mean, we've talked about this for years in this space. This was the first live action opportunity to see the Black Panther, who's supposed to be one of the top 10 most brilliant men in the Marvel universe, brilliant people. And this was an opportunity for young black boys to see black male brilliance. That's one of the reasons you have such a legacy of black male comic book creators and artists and writers who fought for there to be a presence for black males to look up to. I was one of those kids. I loved reading the Black Panther. He was brilliant. He would outsmart Reed Richards. He would outsmart Tony Stark. It was brilliant. It was great to see. But then by the time you get to his first live action adaptation, his sister has all the brilliance. And I keep telling people that's like making a Superman movie for the very first time in history. The very first time you get a live action Superman and Lois Lane has all the super strength in the flight.
Well, that's kind of I won't jump the shark with Obi-Wan, but that's
we're gonna get there.
We're gonna get there. It's a good time. We're gonna get there.
Yeah. So, and this is one of the things we do in these conversations. We really chronicle, as well as discuss it in general. We chronicle the treatment of the black male image because there's a point where people were saying to me with the Black Panther, "Oh, you're being too sensitive. Oh, you're just not paying attention." I'm like, I'm a 40-year comic book reader. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But after you get a few more of these different presentations, these different films and shows in place, I'm just looking at you like, you seeing it yet?
Yeah. Have you seen it yet? Well, that's where I got to the point, Dr. T, where it's like you can't get away from it. It's here. It's not coming. It's here, and you're gonna keep seeing it. And outside of having more black creators and writers in this genre, actually writing material, actually working on these books and actually putting it out there, not gonna change this shit at all. So you can keep getting the same goofy shit. Like my biggest problem with Layla is the character didn't even exist. They made her up. So that means everything about her was made up. And if you watch the behind the scenes part, you find out who made it up. It wasn't the screenwriter, it was the screenwriter and his wife. His wife put that in there. Then her and the actress created the rest of the character. I'm like, oh my fucking God, dude. So y'all just throwing stuff in there to make her something. Like, oh my God.
Oh, wait a minute. So wait a minute. You're gonna throw away 30 years of comic book lore for some shit you made up on the set.
That's shit you made up in a screenplay to give this character some shine. It could be a good opportunity for representation for such and such. Could have been a good opportunity to represent some black males too, because if you guys don't think about it, Khonshu is depicted as a guy's voice, right? It's a guy.
Right.
He's the only guy that you can't see his face. His face is all decrepit and withered, but that makes him a man, doesn't it? It makes Khonshu a man. Everybody else, even the crocodile god, she came back. She got her full features and everything. Even got long locks. But she ain't decrepit. They always depict Khonshu as being wrong and crazy and all the rest of this stuff, and he don't care about people and all the rest of that. And I'm sitting here thinking, but that's still a dude.
Right.
Gosh, you must be the only black dude. Must be
With
the only
no face.
with no face, right?
There's a fear of black male intelligence. There's a fear of black male empowered black men. There's a fear of our intensity, and it's usually in spaces that aren't as easily controlled that you see black men shine. Like if you're talking about athletics, things of that nature, you can't deny the history of black male strength, of capability. I don't care if you're talking about anything from track and field to football, basketball, whatever. And those spaces, believe it or not, had an impact on comics, right? The reason you could actually have black male superheroes be believable is because if you watch, I grew up in the 70s and in the 80s. I was born in the 70s. So I grew up watching Muhammad Ali. You know what I mean? I grew up watching Mike Tyson. You couldn't say black men were Mary Sue's in the comic books because in real life, black men were kicking people's asses. I don't care. You can go back to Jesse Owens, right? Black men demonstrated their prowess in multiple areas. And and that took place intellectually too. It took place in the academy, from the Du Boises on down. So black men had to prove themselves in society, in war. BGS always talks about World War II. Hell, we can go back to the Civil War, but black men demonstrated their capacities on the battlefield, on the sports athletic field. They demonstrated their capacity across the board, which was why when black men started to push away from just being sidekicks and demanding for better representation in comics, it was based on a believable paradigm because black men had demonstrated their capabilities in society. Now, one of the things you see in the last, 15 odd years is this kind of shoehorning of women and girls because they're trying to open it up to a new market. We know 70 to 80% of consumer good purchases are initiated by women. So that said, they're trying to open up to that market by Mary Suing characters and hopefully tapping into it. And the irony is most of that shit doesn't work.
No.
And instead of doubling down on this legacy of the comics they have, they keep doubling down on a strategy that doesn't work. So that's one of the things that keeps getting me a little incensed. It doesn't work, and yet, black male, especially boys, end up taking the brunt of it. Right? There was a scholarship program that they developed after the first Black Panther movie dropped, and they didn't award it to any black males. They awarded it to a couple of girls. And then they had a couple of the actresses from the film come give the award, but it was such a slap in the face because, again, you have decades of black male comic book writers and artists behind the scene fighting for black male representation, for black boys, especially when you talk about where we are in K through 12, where we are in STEM fields, and the way that Panther is one of the characters as alongside others who were designed to inspire that. You can look at Steel from DC Comics. He's a scientist as well. These were comics where brothers were actually behind the scenes fighting to make sure that these images could be inspirational to black boys. And then by the time they get some serious shine on the live screen, they're gone. And all of that positive capability is gone.
Well, that's the part that usually messes me up. Like I mentioned, Guys of Egypt. If you watch Guys of Egypt, visually it looks really cool. Special effects on it is really cool, but you have to understand it's a bunch of European actors playing gods in Egypt, right?
Exactly.
Except for one.
Yeah.
One of them is Chadwick Boseman. He's playing Hathor, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. He's playing Hathor. But the way they have him playing Hathor is kind of aloof and effeminate. And that gets into that same thing. Is like you only comfortable with trying to make black men effeminate or brutes that are being killed. Because I don't know if y'all been paying attention in the MCU lately. It's open season on killing black dudes. White women can kill black dudes with no problem. It's not even, the camera will linger on it so you know that white women is killing black dudes. I mean, we talk about Loki, but what was Loki? Loki was another Mary Sue Sylvie character who was also made up, killing at the end of time and everything else, the one black dude in charge of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Just running them straight through. Right? No cut, no nothing like that. Nope, we killed him. Now, I don't see that same treatment being given to everybody else. I don't see characters put in those positions like this is going to be the main character that we have to defeat, and it's always somebody else. I don't see that. It's like they really try to linger on that idea in this and put it in your subconscious that you are going down. You are not to be feared. You are to be destroyed or killed at any moment. And anybody can do it. Even a 90-pound weakling in Moon Knight who fought off a whole goddamn mummy, she can do it too.
Right.
Any female can. Any female can beat a big black man. I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Shout out to
in case you wouldn't have Karens.
Shout out to Darnell Smith with the message about the St. Kevin comic. If that's something, but see, that's the thing. If that's something you want to see created, how useful is it to have a shop that caters to the manosphere that would be willing to put it on its shelves, willing to sell it and send it out? I don't care if you're buying it from Australia, from Ghana, or from New York, or or walking in off the street right there in El Cerritos. Right, this is the kind of place we need to go to have that. Right, how many institutions does the manosphere have access to, where we can actually have our ideas supported? Y'all tell me, right? But so
I'd like to know. Like I cruise these YouTube streets a lot, and as far as I know, I'm probably one of the only geeks on YouTube who talks about comics and actually has a shop.
Yeah,
a lot of them are affiliated with somebody or know somebody in the industry, like a writer or an artist or something like that. But they don't have shops. I only know of one of them who actually has his own comic book.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. So it, especially not if you're black. So it's a rare thing. It's a rare thing. And I didn't do it for that reason. I did it just because I love the place and I don't want to see it go away.
Well, and that's why I want people to consider membership as well. I mean, you can go on Patreon and support the stores, support the shop. And there are tiers of support where you can become a monthly, supporter, a monthly patron to the store, so we can build it up. So I hope you guys take advantage of it. I know I am. I'm going to be shooting the money. Some months I'll buy books. There's some months that I will let him know in advance. I won't. The money is to help the shop, because I want this space available so that I can see the kind of stuff I want to see. Because when it comes to black male media, I mean, look, man, I've been saying this for years. YouTube has been, a very useful space. But if YouTube changes its mind tomorrow, what exactly do the majority of brothers on here, where do they go? What happens? I mean, YouTube could literally change and shift the whole discussion going on as far as the manosphere with a shift in policy.
Yeah, or bury it.
Yeah.
But not even a flick of the switch, just a couple of keystrokes.
Exactly. So that's one of the reasons
Pretty good. Yourself, how are you? All right.
I want us to take the opportunity to build up, whatever mechanisms we can to support one another, but also so that we can get our ideas out and not have to solely rely on impersonal relationships with large institutions that through the stroke of a pen can change everything. We got to do both. We got to walk and chew at the same time. And while we got this shine on us, let's use it to build some other things and go from there. Anything else you want to drop about Moon Knight?
Moon Knight. I like the ending. How they finally revealed Jake Lockley at the end, which was cool. And you get to see Oscar Isaac actually using a third accent, which is kind of his own accent. Because if you didn't know, Oscar Isaac is actually Latino. He's not a Caucasian dude at all. But I like that, and like seeing that there is more to him. There is more to this story. And that some of that I was right on. Like, the Lockley was the one out there killing folks. Wasn't necessarily Mark. It was Lockley was out there getting it in for conscience.
I told you it was Lockley, because folks were showing up dead, and even Mark was like, "I ain't do that."
Yeah, I was like, "Hey, it's a third persona." I wasn't gonna name it just in case, because they made up Lila. Maybe they left out Jake, so I wasn't gonna name it. But that's why I just kept calling it the third persona. Well, there is a third persona. And apparently now we know a lot about Jake. Jake liked to date. Jake liked women.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but I knew him to be a cab driver. I didn't know him to be a stone cold killer. So
No, that's where they flipped the character up a little bit. If
yeah.
you watch that behind the scenes thing, which is why I watch a lot of behind the scenes footage stuff when they're just doing a little documentary or a little clip, 30-minute clip about what's going on behind the scenes, because you always get to hear from the producers, the writers, the actors, of what they were thinking about, what the reasons were why they did certain things in the show, right?
Hmm.
And it was, in some senses, confirmation for me that okay, what I was seeing as the show was going on, these two producers who wrote it, that was what they were trying to do. That's exactly what they're trying to do. So it lets me know, okay, we're on parallel right now with what you were putting out. I got it the same way. Cool. But one of the other things was you find out how much some of these people actually know about this character, or how little they know about the character,
Hmm.
and where they take license and where they don't. The actual screenwriter, he didn't know that much about Moon Knight at all,
Right.
but he had all of this convoluted stuff to pull from the last 30 or so years of his
Right.
character being around, more than that, really. So he just pulled what he thought was the essential parts into that character and then made some changes. This is where I get into the fact that when a character jumps media,
Hmm.
right? If you go from
Hmm.
a comic book to live action, you got to give them a little room for some allowances to change some things to make it work. The character wouldn't have worked if it stuck strictly to his original order. It wouldn't have worked at all.
Mm.
But the way they pulled certain things in worked a lot better for a live action television show. It made it more intriguing for you to watch this character go through it. Not revealing every persona off the bat worked, giving you 2 episodes of Steven, giving you a couple episodes of Mark, and
Hmm.
then getting to the end where you get that symbiosis between the two of them working together was cool.
Right.
Then you also get, yeah, but there's still one you forgot about. you
Right. No,
know?
I thought it was brilliant the way they had, Mark and Steven figure out how to work together. It was brilliant the way they started us with Steven and they gave us the impression that he was
Mhm.
the main personality. And then
Right.
to watch Steven discover that he wasn't the main personality
Mhm.
was kind of deep. Even
Yeah.
Steven had to grapple with that. And then seeing the first time he manifested in the midst of abuse, that
Mhm.
was deep. That was
Yeah,
deep.
that was a deep one for that show. That I keep pointing this out to people. I'm like, I can't think of where I've seen it on a show where they really got into, outside of Stephen King, I would say,
Right.
but leading into the mother's abuse is the reason this boy is broken.
Yeah.
She is the reason he has a split personality. She
Yeah.
calls that
Yeah.
because it always comes from somewhere. They showed it to you. I mean, they didn't show you her beating the hell out of the boy, but you heard it. You
Hmm.
understand the situation of what was going on. She was getting the hell kicked out of her, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's any different for any black boy. I'm just saying,
Right. That's
ain't been
real.
any different for us. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought that was a really big moment in that show, that they actually went there and showed as much as that as they did. They didn't say that, oh, it was the father, that he was just a terrible father. They didn't follow
Yeah.
that trope.
Yeah. I thought
They
they
put
were
it on
going
the
to
mom.
go there. Yeah.
Yeah, they put it on the mom. And the only thing I caught out of it was that people kept trying to find a way to blame it on the dad still. Like, oh, he was ineffective. He was ineffective. He just let her have her way. It's like, I don't know. I live in a real world. A lot of dudes let a lot of women have their way. So I
Well,
don't know.
she was mentally ill, and
She was mentally ill.
if you've ever been in a marriage or a deep relationship and had kids with someone who's mentally ill, anything you do to her affects the kids, and
Mhm.
so there's I would admit the father wasn't the strongest man in the world, but he was also under a lot of duress.
Yeah.
But one of the other things I thought was brilliant when you think about it is Steven was talking to his mother from the first episode,
Yeah.
and she had passed, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she had been gone.
So he was
That-
imagining talking to her on a daily basis.
right. Which is something that's what gives that show more replayability, because once you watch it one time through and get to the end,
Hmm.
you will go back and try to pick out all those moments. Like outside of Jake Lockley going back and figuring out, okay, that was somebody else. It
Hmm.
wasn't the two of them.
Hmm.
All those little things that Stephen was doing was there was a reason for it.
Right.
You'll figure it out at the end. You'll figure it out, and you'll go back and watch. It's like, oh, dude, he's really messed up, you know. And it's not necessarily his fault. He's just living with the situation that he has actually been put in. So it was interesting, but yeah.
I will say too, you brought up Khonshu a while back and his voice and how he might have been, in some respects, a black male god. Then you got to deal with the way race is depicted with voice, and you definitely could have used the brother to play Khonshu. You could have. But the other one that got me was Towerette. I may not be.
Oh yeah. I actually that behind the scenes actually clued us in on something, right?
Yeah.
And I told Malika about this and sent him a picture. Watching the behind the scenes footage, you find out who the actress was who was playing Towerette. It's not a white chick at all.
No,
she's an Egyptian woman.
Right.
Like she's mixed, like Egyptian and Caucasian or whatever.
Yeah.
So she's doing that white girl voice, but she is nice looking. Well, like, dude, you did her a disservice making her look like a hippo. Like,
well, but
she could have just been on screen.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. She was fine. But the thing that bothered me is when I heard her, is just like you thought. It's just like you said. I thought it was a British white chick, and not just an everyday chick, but like
have a good one,
like a kind of, I don't know, kind of ditzy one at that. And I'm like, this is an Egyptian goddess that's supposed to be immortal, She sounds like a ditzy British white chick. I'm like,
she should have a little bit of a better handle on things, don't she?
Exactly.
Like, let me get this together. Yeah, it was like, okay, who the hell is this?
No,
it was bothering me too. It bothered me a bit too. The CG on the hippo was cool, but I'm like, why does she sound so stupid? But
she sounds stupid. She sounds unsure. And this is an immortal, so she should be a lot more self-assured about what she's doing. But then the whole spin where she has her own avatar as a hero, and I was just like, I get that they got to have some new creative license, but the Mary Sue dynamic of it just really gets on my nerves. It does.
Yeah,
we try to make books out of some of this stuff, and it just keeps flopping and flopping and flopping. And they want to make the argument that, comics are for everybody. And I get that you want to make that argument. But here's the thing. Some genres are, they tie to a very particular demographic. Look, I teach Africana Studies. At the end of the day, when you look at all the campuses across the world that have an Africana Studies program, the majority of the students are going to be Black. If you look at women's studies across the world, wherever you find women's studies, the majority are going to be women. I mean, it is what it is. There are whole genre, and when it comes to comic books, when it comes to action figures, they always tilted male. And when I was growing up, that was the dynamic. Dolls tilted female, action figures tilted male. It is what it is, and they're trying to disrupt that, but they're really only trying to disrupt it with male entities.
Yeah.
They're still cool with Barbie only appealing to girls. They're still cool with all those girl enterprises still appealing to girls, but they want to disrupt the gender dynamic of the male enterprises, to democratize and,
diversify. That's not diversity, because it's only. I pointed this out with the MCU after this last Marvel show, right? It's like after Doctor Strange, and that you have to actually look at how many new characters they're introducing, and then do the count. How many of them are female? How many of them are male? And when you do that, it's not diversity. I don't care what background they're coming from, gender-wise. All you're doing is introducing female characters.
Right.
That's it. You're not introducing any new male characters. You're just actually killing off or getting rid of a lot of male characters to bring in a lot of female characters to take their place. So that's not diversity in any sense of the word.
Right.
You're just pushing your agenda. That's what it is. And I may not have a problem with some of the characters. This Lila one I have a problem with because it's a made up character. And it's Mary Sueism at its worst.
Well,
and now they turned her into an avatar, so now I got to see her in something else again. Like, oh my fucking god, dude! And now it won't go away.
see, no one is feeling me. No one said Dennis Haysbert should have been the voice of Khonshu.
He should have. I like F. Murray Abraham, but I hated his voice as soon as I heard it. It's like, no, that's not Khonshu. Dennis Haysbert would have been ball. Yeah, he would have did it. He would have did it.
And I like F. Murray Abraham too. You got him. You got there's all kind of brothers that have powerful voices. My favorite is always going to be the brother who played Spawn in the animated series.
Keith
David, man. That's always going to be my favorite. because
That Grizzle, that Goliath, and
his spawn was
Spawn,
the coldest. Oof.
Navy commercials and stuff. Like, yeah, he got that voice. He got the
Yes, he
voice.
does. Yes, he
He got
does.
the
So
voice.
Keith David as Khonshu would have been ridiculous.
Yeah, that I'd have loved the hell out of that.
Oh,
I'd love the hell out of that.
you know,
I
but
guess they
that,
were going for that British bent.
yeah, you know, so really the only time you see that strong black male presence is Samuel Jackson, and that in the Marvel universe, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that they liked Samuel as an actor, but they're not really trying to have too many strong brothers in there. So,
Rob Matthews got a point. We need somebody to get on the voiceover of episode 1 of Moon Knight, replaced with Dr. Tia-san for Khonshu.
Oh God.
Give it back, worm.
Man, I would be trying to mimic Keith David. That's why you got to get Keith, man.
Yeah, you got to get Keith for it.
But let's see. So as far as that, I didn't really dig the whole ditzy British white woman for this Egyptian goddess thing either.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of gods I wanted to see represented that I didn't get to, and a lot of that is because we get very sparse very few opportunities to see any aspect of Black history represented, whether it's the African gods, the Egyptian one. We get very few opportunities on the big screen or even on the little one as far as Disney Plus is concerned. And so whenever those opportunities are missed, I'm always going to be irritated by it. But let's talk a little bit about because I've been wanting to hear this from you directly.
Okay.
Your thoughts on Top Gun.
Okay, Top Gun. You didn't want to go with the bullshit in the middle, huh? Okay.
Well, you know what? We can do that. We can do that. We can go with the bullshit.
Yeah, I thought we had a nice dovetail into talking about Obi-Wan and the backlash that they getting from this show about that Reva chick. It's like, but it's a good dovetail because we talk about how they created this character with Layla in the MCU, right? And now she's there, and she had to, constantly keep upstaging and Mary suing her in there.
Mm-hmm.
And get into Obi-Wan, another franchise, Star Wars universe, still owned by Disney.
Right.
And you're seeing the same stuff. That in 2 episodes, it seems like this whole show was going to pivot from being about Obi-Wan at all. It's going to be about young Princess Leia and Riva, the old Jedi Padawan, who is now Inquisitor. It's like, everybody is hating this fucking character. I don't hate the actors, but I'll just make that point clear. I don't hate the actors unless they come out and say something goofy. Like Brie Larson, she said enough goofy stuff that I don't have to like her at all and the character.
I don't.
You double did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The woman playing Layla, I don't have to dislike that actress. I dislike the character. They need to write it better or do something else with it.
Aside from the fighting, I like the character just as an architect doing her thing, trying to restore certain things and bring them back to museums. I like the character up to a point. When she started killing grown men and turned into a superhero, I was done. But up to that point, even as Mark's wife, I dug her. So I'm feeling good.
Yeah, I was fine with her being Mark's wife and whatnot, but getting that behind the scenes stuff, and she's talking about that she really wanted that character to be something, not just have her purpose be a man or some stuff. I was like, oh my God, why'd you get married? Why did you get married? Oh my God. I want her to have a purpose other than just a male, just to be in service to a male. Like, you should have got your own show then, obviously.